India stands at a pivotal moment. This is a story about power, the very energy that fuels a nation of over 1.4 billion people. For decades, the world has watched India's rise, and how it chooses to power that rise. The decisions made here will echo across the planet, shaping the global fight against climate change. How do you lift millions out of poverty while cutting carbon emissions? India has laid out a vision of energy independence by 2047, the centenary of its freedom. India has committed to achieving net zero carbon emissions by 2070, signaling a profound shift towards a sustainable future. This is a story of contrasts and complexities, a dynamic process of phasing out the old while rapidly building the new. To understand India's energy journey, one must grasp the scale of its needs. This nation is experiencing rapid urbanization, fueling economic growth and relentless demand for electricity. Meeting this demand is a key challenge. Access to reliable energy is transforming lives, enabling education and business. Ensuring constant, stable, and affordable supply is the next step. India aims to become a developed nation by 2047, intrinsically linked to its energy strategy. India has pledged to install 500 gigawatts of non-fossil fuel electricity capacity by 2030, and meet 50% of its electricity needs from renewables, demonstrating global leadership in clean, sustainable growth. At the heart of India's energy strategy lies a delicate balancing act. The nation must navigate the trilemma of providing energy that is secure, sustainable, and affordable. For instance, coal has been the bedrock of India's energy security for decades, fueling industrial growth. However, coal is also the most polluting of fossil fuels, posing a threat to air quality and climate goals. India currently imports nearly 89% of its crude oil, and about 44% of its natural gas. This heavy reliance on foreign markets makes its economy vulnerable to volatile global prices and geopolitical shocks. This involves maximizing domestic production of all energy sources, from coal and gas to solar and wind. The impacts of climate change are no longer a distant threat in India. This has created a powerful domestic driver for clean energy. It is about protecting the health and well-being of its own people, and safeguarding the nation's natural resources for future generations. For a developing country like India, keeping energy costs low is crucial for social equity and industrial competitiveness. India's energy mix is a blend of old and new, reflecting a nation straddling its industrial past and a clean energy future. Fossil fuels remain dominant, with coal as the undisputed king, powering factories and cities. However, a revolution is underway, with renewable energy rising spectacularly. Non-fossil fuel sources now account for nearly half of India's installed power capacity. This creates stark contrasts, as coal still generates 75% of the electricity. India's energy system depends on coal, relies on imports, and pushes into renewables, presenting economic, environmental, and geopolitical implications. Coal is the foundation of India's energy security and industrial might. India sits on some of the world's largest coal reserves, making it a readily available domestic energy source. Coal-fired power plants generate roughly 3/4 of the country's electricity, providing essential baseload power. However, this reliance comes at a steep environmental cost, contributing to air pollution and climate change. Policymakers face the challenge of balancing coal's benefits with the need to clean the air and meet climate commitments. India is pushing for cleaner coal technologies and phasing out inefficient plants, acknowledging coal's necessity while planning for its decline. India's story for oil and natural gas is vastly different from coal. It's a story of profound import dependence. Domestic production has been declining, creating a gap between production and consumption. India imports nearly 89% of its crude oil needs. This makes the country one of the world's largest oil importers. This heavy reliance on imported oil is a significant strategic vulnerability. Diversifying away from oil is a critical national security and economic imperative. India imports about 44% of its natural gas. To manage this dependence, India is pursuing a multi-pronged strategy, including diversifying import sources. The ultimate long-term solution, however, lies in reducing demand itself. This is the driving force behind the nation's big push for electric vehicles. India's energy story is the rise of renewables. This planned revolution is driven by government targets and private investment. India has emerged as a global leader, installing renewable capacity at an unmatched rate. Solar and wind power are primary drivers, with costs falling dramatically. Solar panels and wind turbines are transforming the Indian landscape. The government's role has been crucial, creating a favorable ecosystem. Initiatives like massive solar parks have scaled up projects efficiently. By mid-2025, India's non-fossil fuel capacity reached nearly 240 gigawatts, almost half of its total. Renewables' growing share indicates the future direction of India's power sector. India aims for 500 gigawatts of non-fossil fuel capacity and 50% renewable electricity by 2030. This ambitious approach is altering India's energy mix, setting it on a path toward energy security. Coal reigns as the enduring emperor of India's energy landscape. It built modern India, deeply embedded in its economy. Vast domestic reserves buffer against global energy market tides, offering prized self-sufficiency. Coal has been the cost-effective choice for power generation for decades, powering homes and giving industries a competitive edge. Coal's dominance continues, responsible for 75% of India's electrical output in 2023. While renewable capacity grows, coal provides constant, reliable power, crucial for soaring energy demands and economic growth. Even as India champions its green transition, it invests in coal, a pragmatic necessity with electricity demand projected to double. Coal is a domestic resource, controlling costs and shielding the economy. Coal's role remains central to India's energy security and economic stability for now. The economic benefits of coal come with a high environmental price tag. Coal's contribution to India's growth is shadowed by its detrimental impact on the nation's air and water. Coal-fired power plants are the largest source of carbon dioxide emissions, placing India among the world's top emitters. Beyond the global impact, the local consequences of coal combustion are felt acutely. The health impacts are severe, leading to a higher incidence of respiratory illnesses and heart conditions. Coal mining scars the landscape, often leading to deforestation and soil erosion. The process is also incredibly water-intensive, putting a strain on local water resources. Furthermore, the disposal of coal ash poses a significant challenge and can contaminate groundwater. Recognizing these severe impacts, India is making efforts to mitigate the damage with stringent regulations. The challenge of cleaning up the existing coal fleet while meeting ever-growing energy demand remains a difficult balancing act. India's industries are powered by coal, but its mobility relies on oil. The transport sector, the economy's lifeblood, runs almost entirely on petroleum. India is a major crude oil consumer, importing nearly 89% of its needs. Energy security is tied to the stability of oil-producing nations, with Russia becoming a top supplier. Natural gas, a growing bridge fuel, aims for 15% of the energy mix by 2030, increasing import reliance. This makes India vulnerable to global LNG market fluctuations, challenging its decarbonization goals. Faced with a mounting import bill and strategic vulnerabilities that come with it, India is engaged in a constant race against time, the hunt for new domestic oil and gas reserves. The government understands that reducing import dependency is not just about cutting demand, but also about increasing domestic supply. To this end, it has been overhauling its exploration and licensing policies to attract more investment from both private and foreign companies. The goal is to unlock the potential of India's vast sedimentary basins, many of which remain underexplored. This quest is a high-stakes gamble, requiring massive capital investment and cutting-edge technology, with no guarantee of success. There have been glimmers of hope that have fueled cautious optimism. Recent discoveries have shown that significant potential may still be untapped. For instance, exploration in the deep waters of the Andaman Sea has suggested the presence of large reserves, with some experts drawing parallels to the game-changing finds in Guyana. Similarly, new discoveries on land, such as those in West Bengal's Nadia and Ranagaat districts, have revived interest in basins that were previously considered less promising. These finds are crucial, not just for the volume of hydrocarbons they might yield, but for the signal they send to the global industry that India remains a viable frontier for oil and gas exploration. Despite these promising signs, the overall trend of domestic production has been one of stagnation and decline. For over a decade, India's crude oil output has fallen as its major fields, like the flagship Mumbai High, have aged and matured. Bringing new discoveries online is a slow and capital-intensive process that can take many years. The new finds, while significant, have not yet been substantial enough to reverse the long-term production decline or make a meaningful dent in the country's massive import needs. The reality is that India is consuming its reserves faster than it can find and develop new ones. This makes the hunt for domestic reserves a critical but ultimately partial solution to India's energy security puzzle. While every new barrel of oil or cubic meter of gas produced domestically is a victory, it is clear that exploration alone cannot close the enormous gap between supply and demand. This underscores the inescapable logic behind India's parallel push into renewable energy, electric mobility, and energy efficiency. The long-term path to true energy independence lies not just in finding more fossil fuels at home, but in fundamentally reducing the nation's reliance on them altogether, transforming the very foundation of its energy consumption. While solar and wind get the spotlight, nuclear power plays a crucial role in India's clean energy strategy. Unlike intermittent renewables, nuclear reactors provide a steady stream of electricity, essential for grid stability. India aims to reach 100 gigawatts of nuclear capacity by 2047. Nuclear energy offers a domestic high-density and emissions-free power source. Scaling up nuclear power is vital for supporting a modern industrialized economy without harming the climate. Nuclear power is set to transition to a central pillar of India's future energy system. India's nuclear journey is a story born out of geopolitical isolation. This forced the country's scientists and engineers to look inward and chart their own course. The result was the development of a largely indigenous nuclear power program. At the heart of this strategy is a focus on a three-stage nuclear program designed to ultimately utilize India's vast domestic reserves of thorium. India is actively pursuing fast breeder reactor technology on a commercial scale and developing small modular reactors. Recent legislative reforms are being considered to allow private companies to invest in and operate nuclear power plants. India aims to unlock the full potential of nuclear energy, securing its place as a clean and reliable cornerstone of the nation's future. If nuclear power is the quiet giant, then solar energy is the dazzling star of India's renewable energy show. The growth of solar power in India has been nothing short of a spectacle, a transformation that has reshaped the country's energy map in less than a decade. Blessed with abundant sunshine for over 300 days a year, India has a natural advantage that it has leveraged with incredible speed and scale. Solar capacity has skyrocketed, crossing 81 gigawatts by early 2025. This represents a nearly four-fold increase from just 20 gigawatts in 2018, making solar the single largest contributor to India's renewable capacity and a powerful symbol of its clean energy ambitions. This solar boom was ignited by a perfect storm of falling costs, technological improvements, and decisive government policy. The global price of solar photovoltaic panels has plummeted, making solar power one of the cheapest sources of new electricity generation in India. The government capitalized on this trend with a suite of enabling policies. It facilitated the creation of mega solar parks, like the colossal 2,245 megawatt Badla Solar Park in Rajasthan, which provide land and grid connections to developers, allowing for rapid large-scale deployment. Competitive auctions for solar projects have further driven down tariffs, making solar power cheaper than electricity from new coal plants in many cases. The solar revolution is not just happening in the vast deserts of Rajasthan and Gujarat. It is also reaching the rooftops of ordinary homes and businesses. The government is actively promoting rooftop solar to democratize energy generation, turning consumers into prosumers who both produce and consume electricity. Programs like the PM Surya Ghar scheme aim to install rooftop solar systems on 10 million households, offering significant subsidies and access to financing. This initiative not only reduces household electricity bills, but also strengthens the grid at the local level and fosters a culture of energy conservation and sustainability from the ground up. India is also pushing the boundaries of solar innovation to overcome challenges like land scarcity. It is pioneering the development of floating solar projects on reservoirs and canals, which conserve land and can also reduce water evaporation. Hybrid projects that combine solar with wind power or battery storage are also gaining traction. These hybrids provide a more reliable and consistent power output, helping to address the intermittency of standalone solar. Through a combination of massive utility-scale projects, distributed rooftop systems, and cutting-edge innovation, India is determined to harness the power of the sun to fuel its sustainable development. While solar power captures the headlines, a strong supporting cast of other renewable sources provides depth and diversity to India's clean energy portfolio. Wind power is the seasoned veteran of this group. With around 46 gigawatts of installed capacity, it is the second largest source of renewable energy in the country. The windy coastlines and plains of states like Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, and Karnataka are home to thousands of turbines that have been feeding clean electricity into the grid for decades. Though its growth has slowed in recent years due to issues with land acquisition and transmission, wind remains a sturdy and reliable backbone of India's renewable generation. To reinvigorate the wind sector, India is now looking offshore. The country has a long coastline with significant potential for offshore wind farms, which can be larger and more efficient than their onshore counterparts. The government has set an ambitious target of achieving 30 gigawatts of offshore wind capacity by 2030, primarily off the coasts of Gujarat and Tamil Nadu. This new frontier presents a massive opportunity to add large volumes of clean power, although it requires overcoming significant technological and financial challenges. Hybridization policies that encourage combining wind and solar projects at the same location are also helping to optimize land use and grid infrastructure. Hydropower is the legacy renewable, the original source of large-scale clean energy in India. With nearly 47 gigawatts of large hydro capacity, it plays a critical role in the energy system. While its share of the overall mix has declined, its importance has not. Hydropower plants are invaluable for their ability to provide grid balancing services. They can be switched on and off quickly to meet sudden peaks in demand or to compensate for dips in solar and wind generation. Pumped hydro storage projects, which act like giant water batteries, are also being promoted to store surplus renewable energy, further enhancing grid stability and enabling a 24/7 supply of clean power. Beyond the big three of solar, wind, and hydro, India is also tapping into the potential of bioenergy, turning waste into wealth. Programs are promoting the production of compressed biogas from agricultural residue and municipal waste, providing a clean fuel for transport and reducing pollution from stubble burning. The ethanol blending program, which mandates mixing ethanol derived from sugarcane with gasoline, is reducing oil imports and boosting farmer incomes. By harnessing a diverse array of renewable resources, from the sun and wind to water and biomass, India is building a resilient, multifaceted, and increasingly self-reliant clean energy system for the future. India's industrial sector is the engine of economic growth, consuming about 40% of the nation's energy, mostly from coal and electricity. Foundational industries like steel, cement, and chemicals are both vital and challenging to decarbonize due to their heavy reliance on fossil fuels. The government's Perform, Achieve, and Trade (PAT) scheme sets mandatory energy efficiency targets, rewarding overachievers and driving significant energy savings. Major corporations are also investing in renewables, motivated by cost savings, sustainability goals, and brand reputation. Hard-to-abate sectors like steel and cement require breakthrough solutions. Green hydrogen and carbon capture are being piloted to cut emissions at the source. Transforming this sector is complex and long-term but essential for India's net-zero ambitions. India's transport sector, powered mostly by imported oil, is a major source of emissions and economic vulnerability. The government's FAME scheme is accelerating electric vehicle adoption, especially for two-wheelers and buses, while expanding charging infrastructure nationwide. Ethanol blending and bio-CNG programs are reducing oil dependence and supporting farmers by turning waste into fuel. Indian Railways is electrifying its vast network and installing solar plants, aiming for net-zero emissions by 2030. These efforts are transforming mobility, cutting pollution, and building a cleaner, more resilient transport system. The road to decarbonization is underway, one vehicle and one train at a time. Rising incomes and urbanization are driving a surge in residential electricity demand, now over a quarter of India's total use. Energy efficiency is key. BEES star labeling and mass LED adoption have slashed consumption nationwide. Universal electrification has brought millions onto the grid, shifting the focus to reliable, affordable, and clean supply. Rooftop solar is empowering households, with subsidies and easy financing making clean energy accessible to more families. Decentralized renewables are turning citizens into active participants in the energy transition. India's sustainable future is being built from the ground up, one home at a time. India's energy transition is shaped by stark regional differences, with states wielding significant power over energy policy. Western and southern states like Rajasthan, Gujarat, and Tamil Nadu lead in renewables, thanks to natural resources and proactive policies. Coal-dependent states in the east face tough transitions, balancing economic realities with the need to move beyond fossil fuels. Hilly regions have untapped hydropower, but face environmental and infrastructure challenges. The central government is bridging divides with green energy corridors and targeted support to lagging states. A unified, equitable energy strategy is crucial to ensure no region is left behind. India's green ambitions demand relentless innovation across the energy value chain. Energy storage is a top priority. Government incentives are spurring battery manufacturing and research into new chemistries. Green hydrogen is emerging as a clean fuel for heavy industry, with India aiming to become a global leader through domestic R&D and pilot projects. Smart grids and digital technologies are making the power system more efficient, resilient, and consumer-friendly. Research into cool roofs and advanced insulation is tackling the growing demand for cooling. India is shifting from technology adopter to creator, building a robust toolkit for its energy transition. Innovation is the engine driving India's sustainable energy future. Innovation alone is not enough. It must be guided and enabled by a coherent and stable policy framework. India's energy transition is being orchestrated through a complex puzzle of policies, regulations, and incentives designed to steer investment, shape markets, and drive behavioral change. Crafting this policy framework is a delicate balancing act, requiring long-term vision while maintaining flexibility to adapt to new technologies. The success of India's energy makeover depends on how well these policy pieces fit together to create a clear, predictable environment for all stakeholders, from global investors to individual households. A key piece of this policy puzzle is creating a vibrant market for clean energy. The government has moved beyond simple subsidies to more sophisticated market-based mechanisms. The introduction of green open access rules makes it easier for commercial and industrial consumers to buy renewable power directly from producers. This creates a competitive market and allows large energy users to meet sustainability targets. Furthermore, the establishment of a national carbon market is on the horizon. This will put a price on carbon emissions, creating financial incentive for industries to decarbonize and allowing for trading of emission reduction credits. Financing this monumental transition is another critical policy area. The scale of investment required is enormous, far exceeding government budget capacity alone. Policy has focused on de-risking projects and attracting private and foreign capital. The issuance of sovereign green bonds has signaled government commitment to sustainable finance. The creation of infrastructure investment trusts, or INVTs, provides new avenues for investors to put money into renewable energy assets. Partnerships with the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank mobilize low-cost international finance for critical green infrastructure projects. Policy must also drive change at the sectoral level. The FAME scheme for electric vehicles and the PLI scheme for battery manufacturing are prime examples of targeted industrial policy. The Energy Conservation Building Code, or ECBC, sets minimum energy performance standards for new commercial buildings. The Ujjwala scheme provided clean cooking fuel access, now complemented by a push for electric cooking. By weaving together macro-level market mechanisms with micro-level sectoral interventions, India is assembling the intricate policy puzzle required for complete energy transformation. Despite progress, India's energy transition faces significant barriers. These are the mountains that must be climbed to reach a secure, sustainable, and affordable energy future. Integrating variable renewable energy into a grid designed for fossil fuels is a key technical challenge. It requires grid modernization and large-scale energy storage. The financial cost is another towering challenge. Mobilizing trillions of dollars requires increased domestic financing. Phasing out coal must be a just transition, providing alternative opportunities for affected communities. Land acquisition faces delays and resistance, highlighting the need for inclusive development. Finally, affordability is a sensitive issue. Ensuring the transition doesn't burden the poor is a moral imperative for long-term success. India's energy journey is one of ambition, innovation, and complexity. The nation is actively shaping the global energy transition, emerging as a new kind of energy powerhouse. Its strategy seeks to reconcile the needs of development for 1.4 billion people with the realities of a warming planet. India has shifted the narrative to one of collective opportunity, advocating for equitable transitions. This approach has cemented India's status as a critical player in building a sustainable future, proving leadership is not just the domain of wealthy nations. India's energy makeover is a story of self-interest converging with global responsibility. This alignment of national priorities with global sustainability goals is the true engine of India's transformation. As we look to the future, it is clear that the road ahead for India is a marathon, not a sprint. The successes achieved so far have been monumental, but they represent the initial phases of a much longer and more complex transformation. The nation has successfully built a massive fleet of renewable energy assets, but the next great challenge lies in making this new energy system work seamlessly. The enduring reliance on coal presents the most formidable obstacle. Managing a just transition will be a delicate process. Decarbonizing the hard-to-abate sectors will demand technological breakthroughs and policy frameworks that are still in their infancy. Securing the colossal financial resources needed for this transformation remains a persistent concern. Yet, despite these daunting mountains left to climb, the direction of travel is irreversible, and the sense of optimism is palpable. It represents a fundamental reimagining of India's economic and social future.